Yo.
Hey.
Hi, Sonny West. How are you?
Hey, Sonny. Man, I'm looking forward to talk to you for a long time.
Yes, Danny told me I've just been so busy working on this series idea that we've got, getting the development ready and the funding and everything for a reality series that we're doing. So,
what is the series going to be about?
Well, it's about the it's called Sing Like the King, and it's about the fans of Elvis's around the nation, and actually it's going to be going around the world that can sing like him, but are not tribute artists, not impersonators, and they're not professionals.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a chance for those that can sing like him to audition, and if they make it and win it all, then they will get $1 million, a new Cadillac,
wow,
some other gifts, plus the ultimate thing is the winner also gets to perform live on stage at a hotel in Vegas on stage with musicians, singers, and people that actually performed with Elvis in either the studio or on stage.
Well, that sounds really cool. So they can show their stuff. So.
Oh well, no, we'll release a CD on that or a DVD on that. And everything.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's just but the primary thing, Joe, will be the stories of these individuals. That's they're the stars, not Elvis.
Mm-hmm.
We're not using his image or anything. We're just letting them sing the songs that mean something special to them, and then we hear their stories, how they became Elvis fans, or what they did to become this, or just really interesting stuff. And there's going to be a lot of it, because I meet a lot of them when I do my shows that tell me
mm-hmm.
what he meant to them, what he meant to their mother, how their mother got them on to listening to Elvis, and they've become a biggest fan. And it's just some of them talk about how at their funerals, their mother's funeral or something, they tell me that how great thou art and different things. So these are things that we're just going to ask them, why does that song mean so much, whatever song they're going to sing, and just get them when the co-host hear something in an area there that sounds like there might be something to that story that might be really warm or fascinating or very funny, whatever the case may be, and then they'll just stay on that area and in that area with them and proceed and say, well, tell me about that, And then these are the things that'll be on, they'll show before the person gets up there and sings,
Mm-hmm. Now, will you be a part of the show, too? Or just...
No, I'm not going to be in it. I'm executive producer.
Come on, Sonny.
Yeah.
You can be on it. Come on.
Oh, well, I'm going to do one thing on there. I probably will do a little bit of something for about 3 to 5 minutes or something every show. We're not sure whether I might tell something about a story, an anecdote, or this or that. But also, I'm going to introduce the when we get down to the final 20 in Vegas. Excuse me. We're going to have celebrity guest judges come on.
Oh, cool.
Like hopefully Tom Jones, Bruce Springsteen, and
oh, jeez,
and then people from the Faith Hill and her husband Tim,
yeah,
as a couple doing 1 week,
mm-hmm.
and we're going to get them to come on there, and I'm going to introduce them because I came up with an idea that we're going to get them to perform their best impersonation of Elvis. Not just sing a song in their own voice, but try the best they can.
Right.
They will be competing for a charity amount to go to their favorite charity.
Wow.
And so that'll be 20, and that'll be like a 3.5 minute segment where they do that we'll have each week once we start going. We're at the finals in Vegas when we get it down to the final 20 people.
When is this going to happen?
It's going to be really a lot of fun. I think they'll enjoy it, and the winner will get a certain amount to his charity, and the other 19 judges will get equal amounts, smaller but equal amounts to their own favorite charity. So it'll be fun.
When is this going to happen, Sonny?
Well, we're in negotiating with some people right now. Well, actually, one person that in Branson that owns a large theater there, and we're talking with him. He's very interested. It's just what he wants versus a percentage that is being offered and everything. So we should find out something, I hope, in a couple of weeks from him. And at that time, then we're going to shoot, because his theater is dark for a week there at Labor Day, starting on that Monday. and dark for a week, so the 3rd through the 9th. So we're going to hopefully shoot then and get it. We've got a network that we were talking with, actually, Joe, that tried to buy this fellow out that came up with the idea. And they got up into the 7 figures, and he was
Wow.
So they made him promise. So that's when, but then when they finally agreed to that, then they started him-hawing around about creative control, him being exec producer, having the final word. And so finally we talked with this other guy about it, and he said, you know what? He's a producer-director. He said, why don't you get the funding up, make your own pilot, you own it, and then you can work your own deal with the network.
Well, it sounds like something I would enjoy.
Oh, you would, Joe. I promise you, people will be tuned in, because especially people that are in the Elvis world that have met so many people from around the world at Elvis's or through emails or through something, and for them to watch and see all the people in this country, how many great singers there are that can imitate Elvis very good, but they have another way of life. They're doctors, they're lawyers, they're plumbers, they're carpenters, they're bus drivers.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, and the only requirement is 21 years of age or older.
Are you going to do like what American Idol does too, show bad ones?
Show bad ones?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's it.
We're going to get some weirdos, you know, but we're not going to let them, they will not appear in jumpsuits.
Okay.
But if they show up in a Jailhouse Rock uniform or something like that, like a costume like that that's away from the Elvis image or something, that, you know, at the audition, if they show up like that, or made up like him or wearing a wig like him or something, that we'll film that. And if it's funny, it'll be funny. But if it's totally ridiculous and silly to the point that it's not even amusing,
or just downright mean.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And our judges won't be mean or anything to them.
Oh, that sounds cool. That sounds cool.
It's going to be a fun show, and I think it's going to be a big hit. I really do.
I look forward to seeing it.
Yeah.
Sonny, can you tell me a little bit about yourself, where you grew up in that, what your parents did?
Yeah, I grew up in Memphis. I was born and raised in Memphis. My dad, when I was a baby, he did a couple of jobs. He worked at the Hotel Peabody, or the Peabody Hotel, in the garage parking cars. People would pull up, and he would take the cars down, park them in the garage. And then he also was a cab driver. He was for a while when he first got there. He was a trolley driver. They had the electric trolleys back then. And then he got into house painting, and he started doing that, and that's what he did for over 50 years, was a house painter. He got a really good reputation and had several crews working for him, and it got where Daddy just went from job to job, checking on him, make sure everything was going good. And as he got older, after about 20 years of it, and he didn't have to do that much, except maybe to go out and finish a job up, so that he would finish it on time, you know, make sure it was finished on time with his contract and his word to the people. He'd work all night if he had to have it done. So he just got a great reputation, and my brother started working with him when he got out of the Army, and he took over the business from Daddy. And in fact, my daddy was still going out. He was so good at going out and just looking at a job and giving an estimate on it, by just looking at the walls or square foot. He could visually know in his mind, and he would give an estimate to it. So Billy, my brother, would give him a 10% commission of what the job was going to be.
What do you got? I know your other brother. How many kids are there in the family?
Well, there was just one brother, and then there was 4 sisters. And I've got all my sisters, but I lost my brother about 3 years ago.
Okay, now what is Red to you?
Red's my first cousin. Our dads were very close brothers. They were very close. They were one of, I think it's 6 boys or 7 boys, and I know there was just one girl, Aunt Maybe. They had one girl, and the rest were all boys. So, in fact, Red's father, my Uncle Tom, he's the one that came and took my dad off of the farm at 18 because he was the only boy left, and his dad was working him to death, and everything was on him. And I got to tell you, my granddad on my dad's side was not a very nice individual. He used to whip those boys with horsewhips.
Oh, my God.
Out in the barn.
Now, is Red a lot older than you? Is Red older than you?
Yeah, he's about 2 years or so older. I'm 3.5 years younger than Elvis, and I think Red's a year and a half younger or something, you know.
And do you remember Elvis in school at all? Did you go to the same school?
I did for 2 years in the 7th and 8th grade, and I do not remember him. I don't remember meeting him or even seeing him in the hall because, your friends, when you're that much younger, your friends are your friends in the 7th and 8th grade. Now, we knew who the football players were, the stars.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't know the linemen and something like that, but we knew the quarterback, who he was, and recognized him, or the running back or something. But there again, in the trenches, man, as it is today, you hardly recognize them.
Right.
You know their name when you hear it, but you hardly recognize them like you do a running back.
Yeah.
It's a lot of press or quarterback.
So when did you first hear about Elvis Presley?
Well, the first time I heard about him was when I was listening to a show when I was like, I guess, maybe 14 years old, 15. It was in 1954.
Mm-hmm.
In the summer there, late summer, I heard on Red Hot and Blue, I heard That's All Right, Mama.
Boy, I would kill to hear that show. No one taped it. I would kill to hear that show.
I don't think we had tapes in.
Yeah. Oh.
They didn't have tape recorders. They did it at the studios, but they didn't have them out there with individuals.
Mm-hmm.
But he introduced him because Elvis sounded black,
Uh-huh.
and he introduced him in a way that was not racial at all. Because he played mostly black artists with the rhythm and blues and everything like that, Rufus Thomas and different people. And so he introduced him as a recent graduate from Humes High School.
Mm-hmm.
And so everybody knew right then from that introduction that Elvis was a white guy.
Yeah.
There was, segregation was still going on, of course, in 1954.
Mm-hmm.
So he sang that song, and then I thought, wow, that's a different sound than anything I'd been listening to on there. And then later after that summer was over, back in the fall, I was at Tech High School where I'd gone to, and just we'd moved away out of the area from Humes, and I'm coming out after having lunch. I'm walking out onto the campus there, and he comes walking up the steps there at the front of the school on Poplar, and no one knew who he was, what he looked like. He had a guitar with him. He came up and introduced himself, and some of the people, probably had been listening to the station too, and some of the girls, there's about 15 of us sitting around there together, and he introduced himself, said, I'd like to sing a couple songs. I just recorded these, and you might, if you listen to Red Hot and Blue, you can hear it on there, And he sang some songs. He sang that song and some others, and he jumped around even then.
Wow.
And some of the girls were looking and kind of snickering and smiling and everything, and the guys were looking and thinking that here's a crazy guy,
Mm-hmm.
But it just, I liked him right there, and I thought, wow.
So you were a fan right away.
Exactly. And the next time I saw him was when I was out in Tucson in the Air Force, and he did a concert out there a couple of years later, and I think it was 56 at the rodeo grounds there, and he came in. It was an exciting show, and I just thought, wow, man, that's that guy from Memphis. He's just unreal.
Mm-hmm.
So, I got out of service, went home, and then he's getting ready to go to Germany a couple of years later, and Red invited myself and my sisters, which 3 of them, because my other sister was much younger, to come out and meet Elvis at the Rainbow roller skating rink for a private party that Elvis was throwing. He threw him there quite a bit. And we went out and met him, and I was very impressed at how friendly, how warm, and how really he was as a person, just like you and I are talking.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought, God, man, this is a big star. Here he is just acting like everybody else. So we hit it off that night, and then he was getting ready to go to Germany. Red was going with him. Red had just got out of the Marine Corps, and he was going with him, and he just told me, he said, Sonny, Elvis likes you a lot. And he said, I'd like for you to come out and see us when we get back. And I said, oh, okay, I will. So I just continued my job that I had and everything, and when he came home in 1960, I went out there after a week or so to let him settle down and say hi, and next thing I know, within 2 or 3 weeks, he asked me if I wanted to go to work for him.
Mm-hmm. What'd you think about the first time you saw Graceland?
Oh man, I thought it was absolutely beautiful. I saw it in '58 the first time when I went out there and drove by there, you know, because I was in the service when he bought it in '57. So that's the first time I saw it was in '58. After I met him at the rink, I went out there and drove by it. I thought, man, that was really a mansion on the hill, boy. And I was really taken back. And the next thing I know that, you know, I'm living there.
Wow. Would you live downstairs or out back? Or?
Well, we started off, Joe and I shared, Joe Esposito and I shared that room in front on the opposite side of Elvis's room over there. As you look at the front of Graceland, he's in that top right, and Joe and I shared that room on the top left.
Wow. Wow.
And we shared, and his grandmother was in the room behind Joe and I, and that lady became Lisa's room. Because when Elvis's mother died, he moved his grandma downstairs to his mother's, what was his mother's and dad's room on the first floor. And so then, that, like I said, that room became her room in '68 when she was born.
When Elvis's mother passed, it really devastated him. Did it throughout his whole life?
Yes, he loved her dearly. That's something you don't ever forget. I think of my mother often, and my mother and I were very close, as me and my dad were also. We had a great, great mom and dad that we loved, but there was something unique with Elvis and his mom, being an only child, being a twin, the twin not surviving, and it's like she thought she had this precious gift, and she just poured love on him, and he got all these good things from her warm, giving nature, her sweetness, unselfishness, just everything in the world good and everything in the world bad, I think he got from his dad. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, how was Vernon?
Vernon wasn't a very... Vernon, I don't want to speak badly about him, Joe, in any way other than what I would say to his face, and he just wasn't a really warm person. He kind of was cocky. He kind of developed an attitude. He didn't like us guys, any of us, very much at all.
Really?
None of us. Oh, yeah. He wished none of us were there. He put Charlie out just almost as quick as Elvis passed away. He told Charlie he needs to get out. And Charlie, you know, God, for him to say that to Charlie, that's... Anyway, so he just wasn't a very warm person or a likable person. He had kind of, like I said, a cocky attitude, and he just wanted to make sure that he drew that weekly paycheck.
How was Dodger?
I loved her.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying this out of school, but Elvis told me himself. He says, you know, Dodger really likes you, Sonny. She says you're her favorite. Because I would go in there and sit and talk with her. I'd go in there and sit with her, and I'm not talking about for 5 minutes. I'd go in there, and she'd be sitting in that one big console chair she sat in. I sat in the chair across from her, and we'd sit there and just talk, and she'd tell me things about her life, and she'd tell me about, you know, I asked her about her ex-husband, and I knew I touched something there that got, she goes, I don't want to talk about him. Wait, Grandma, wait a minute. And I would just ask her, I said, so I'd get her, and she would just, she'd get all uptight about him gallivanting around.
Oh, my goodness.
He was a dapper guy. I met him in Louisville, you know.
Yeah.
When we played there, he was living in Kentucky, and he came to the show, and Elvis, of course, saw him because it was his granddaddy. And he didn't see him often, and he was just as lively a guy. He's about the size of Red Buttons, the actor, small, little dapper guy, dressed sharp, and at that age even still doing it. So, but I would sit and talk with her about a lot of things, and I heard things about life down in the South when she was younger, and it was just fascinating to me. So I really, really enjoyed her.
Did you see a lot of Elvis's family come around in that through the years, or?
Well, in the after he had made it big, or after?
Yeah, I mean, you know, even in a lot of books, you don't hear of a lot of like the Smiths coming around and the Pritchett's and stuff like that. Did they come around, or were they invited to parties, or they're just not like a part of history? It seems
they weren't invited to parties. He had the Smiths that he was really close to was, of course, Billy. And Jean, and he had a cousin named, of course he was close to Patsy, but she wasn't a Smith, she was a Smith and a Presley, because her mom was a Smith, a sister to Gladys, and her dad was a brother to Vernon, so he was a double first cousin.
Jeez.
But, yes, he was close with Jean and Billy. he liked Junior, but Junior had problems because he was in Korea, and he was an alcoholic, and he had some bad experiences over there that he never got over.
Uh-huh.
And he traveled a lot with...
Oh, no. Did I lose you? God, I was having such a good time listening to you.
What happened?
You just was gone. You were just gone. All of a sudden you were...
talking, and then when I finished, you didn't say anything. I said, go.
The last thing I heard was you said that the one Smith was in Korea. That's the last thing I heard, and then it was gone.
Okay, yeah, I don't know what happened. Are you on a... Is this a landline that you're on?
Yeah, I'm on a landline.
Huh?
I'm on a landline, yeah.
Yeah, I am too, so I don't know what happened.
No, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that was Junior. He was in Korea, and he had some problems over there that happened with him, so he started drinking a lot.
Oh.
Became an alcoholic, and he passed away.
Like a lot of other men.
Exactly. And then, well, in the Vietnam thing, did the same thing to people. In Korea, the same thing. You had the Chinese, you had different people fighting. You didn't know who was who.
Yeah.
You didn't know the North Korean army, but other than that, there was a lot of other guerrillas. But...
not a lot of family came around then, or...
Well, no, there were just a couple of them came around Christmas time.
Yeah.
You know, but there was one cousin that he really liked, Bobby Joe, and of course he loved Patsy.
Mm-hmm.
Patsy was a double first cousin.
Who was Lois Smith?
Lois was the mother of, I don't know if Lois went, was she the mother or...
She married a Smith. I know there's a book out, and there's a, I know it's just another way to try to get money off of Elvis is what this book is. And the author called me and wanted me to push this book because I do book segments on EER radio.
Uh-huh.
And it was a small little book, nice little book, but it's just another way of trying to get money out of Elvis is all this book was. I mean, this is basically what, she knew Elvis was family, but...
Nothing else to say.
Really nothing else to say. She says she was there when Gladys had died. She was there in the room when Gladys passed away. And
I think Lois, if I'm not mistaken, Lois may have been Travis's wife.
I don't know. I don't remember. It was...
Would you be Billy Smith's mother? And she married Travis Smith.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was Lois.
Oh.
And that Lillian was the man's mother. She married a man, but she was one of Gladys's sisters also. And then there was another.
Oh, don't tell me. Do you want to do it another day? Maybe there's something going on with the phone lines.
I don't know. We can continue here and just see,
I just feel sorry for you. I mean...
Oh, no, I'm okay. Just tell me where I left off.
Oh, well, I was just kind of trying to get around. Did you see a lot of family members try to come in to get something off of Elvis, to ask for money and stuff like that? Was that done a lot through the years, or...?
It wasn't done a whole lot, but it was done several times, and usually it was by the same people.
Was Elvis giving?
He was giving to them, but he liked to give when they didn't ask.
Okay.
Like, for instance, one time, Harold, who I liked a lot.
Harold Lloyd.
Liked a lot, yeah, because he used to give Elvis candy and everything when he was a kid. And so he was working as a gate guard down there, and he had a truck repossessed. His pickup was repossessed. He got behind 2 or 3 months payment or whatever. So he came up there, and Elvis saw him and told me to talk to him, find out what he wanted, because Harold didn't come around and just sit out there in the den,
Mm-hmm.
So I went out and talked to him and everything. He always called me. I was in my room. I didn't even know he was there. And he said, "Sonny, Harold's downstairs. Won't you find out what he wants?" So I went down there, and I just kind of walked out there, and I said, "Hey, Harold." He said, "Hey, Sonny." I said, "Are you here for a reason or something, or are you just, hanging by?" So he said, "Well," I wanted to see Elvis." And I said, "Look, you want me to take a message or anything, or talk to him or something?" He said, "Well," he said, "What's happened, Sonny?" And Harold liked me, so I mean, it was a mutual thing there, and he said, well, he said, my truck was repossessed. I got behind a couple of payments or 3, I can't remember. And he said, I just want to know if I could get enough to make those up so I could get my truck back, and I was going to take so much out of each weekly paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, oh, okay. I said, yeah. I said, well, let me see if he's up and everything, and if so, then I'll go ahead and ask him, and I'll get back at you. And so I went up and saw Elvis and told him, and he said, man, he's a poor guy.
Mm-hmm.
He said, Sonny, you and I are going to go get him a new one.
Oh, boy.
So I went down, I told Harold, Harold, why don't you just hang around here a little bit? I was getting up soon. So he and I went out the front door. Harold never even knew we left. And we went, I was bought a new pickup truck.
Wow.
But that, not a camper, but that shell thing that goes over a truck, like Harold had on his old one. So he bought it with the shell and everything, and he drove it back, and I drove the car back, and we pulled it up in the back there, and we came in the back door by the den there from underneath the carport area, and we walked in, and Harold looked surprised to see Elvis come in from outside.
Mm-hmm.
Thought he was upstairs, and Harold said, hey, Harold, he said, what you doing, man? He said, oh, I think I'm doing okay, and he said, I was talking with Sonny. He said, yeah, Sonny told me about it and everything. He said, anyway, let's go outside and talk about it. Went outside, and Harold was, talking to him as they walked out, and I was trailing behind, so I didn't really see his face at first. But Elvis said, is that your truck there? And Harold said, no, that's not Elvis. He said, yes, it is, Harold.
Wow.
New truck. Harold started crying.
Oh, jeez.
Don't worry about that old truck, Harold. It was 2 or 3 years old, so it wasn't even old to Elvis. It was,
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's the way he was. And
he really was giving.
Yeah. He got all that generous nature from his mom.
Mm-hmm.
He was a giving person. He never knew when he came home whether there were going to be a lot of women in the breakfast area visiting with his mom waiting to meet him. She'd invite him from the market.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah.
Won't you come on home with me, and when he gets up, I'll introduce you to him.
Oh, my gosh.
He'd walk down, be 3 or 4 women sitting around there, and she'd say, hi, son. He'd walk over here. He'd say, I want you to meet these people. I was up there at the market, and I was talking to them. I told them they could meet you and everything. So he would introduce, he'd say, nice to meet you, this, that, and everything, and then he'd say, well, I'm going upstairs and get ready and everything to get up. So nice to meet you, ladies. And he'd go back upstairs, and a little bit later they'd leave.
Is there a memory, is there one special memory that sticks in your mind about Elvis?
Oh, God.
So many.
There's several of them.
Yeah.
Just when he gave that lady that wheelchair, that black lady that had no legs.
Oh, jeez.
The story in the paper that Marty read, and
Mm-hmm.
brought it and told Elvis, you might want to look at this, because all of us knew Elvis. We knew what he was like
Mm-hmm.
in that area for the needy. See, he gave Joe different reasons. He gave to us. He loved us, and he gave to us just to show how much he appreciated us and that he loved us and everything,
Mm-hmm.
even though we weren't needy. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
I'd have a car only a couple years old. He'd give me a new one.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that was just the way he was. But he also gave to the needy, to the people that needed, like that lady.
Mm-hmm.
And that was for a different giving.
And a lot of people don't know that, Sonny.
Yeah, well, it's in my book, that new book coming out.
Mm-hmm.
I talk about that very much so, about how he had a couple of 3 ways of giving. Sometimes just to shock someone because he loved them, and others because they needed it. And it's like 3 ways of giving, and he was unlimited in each one. It made no difference when it hit him to do something. He was guided a lot by impulse and
Mm-hmm.
feelings that he got about people.
Sonny, what was your... I'm sorry.
I didn't want it. I
Yeah.
don't need it. No, I'm not taking it. Because he just gave me a motorcycle a few months earlier. This was out in California
Uh-huh.
in '65. And we'd gone to find him a baby blue convertible. We were coming back from looking at the bus that was George Barris was customizing.
Right.
Marty and Billy, and we were riding back home and going up through Bel Air. He said, "Man, what a beautiful night! This is a baby blue Cadillac convertible night." You know, we said, "Yeah." And he said, "Let's go over to that Cadillac place." And I turned around, so I turned around and we went. And I was talking to him on the west. I said, "Oh, is you sure baby blue?" Because he always talked about how you kind of get tired of colors after a while. But he said, black and white, you know, you just don't get tired of those colors. And so I was talking to him about it. He said, "Yeah," but he said, "Yeah, most of the time that's right. But that baby blue tonight just seems right." So we went there to this place. They didn't have one in stock. Said they would try to locate one. Elvis had left Marty there with him, and Billy and Elvis, myself, left. We went out across the street, looked at the used car lot that they had there for their used cars. I thought he was looking for a baby blue one there that was maybe a year or two old in case, you know. They couldn't get him one. And he said, "No, I don't see anything here." So he asked me where that other Cadillac place was. And I said, it's down Wilshire, down near La Brea. So he said, "Let's go there." He said, Billy, step in there and tell Marty that we'll be back in a few minutes. Trying to find that blue one. So we went down there, and you know, today with the computer thing, Joe, when you think about it, they would find one real fast where one was.
Yeah.
Very quickly, they could get online and say, "Here, we've got one here. I've contacted them. They're going to serve it, bring it over, or whatever." So we went ahead and went down to the other one, and we were in that big limousine, Rolls-Royce limousine that Elvis had. And I'm driving, and him and Billy are sitting in the back, and we get down there, and I let them out up at the front, and I back the Rolls-Royce back across the lot and park it out of the way. And by the time I lock the car and walk over to where the showroom is where I let them off, Elvis, the salesman, and Billy are coming outside the door. And so Elvis said, "Sonny," he said, is that what you're talking about? You know, and he points right there next to the, if I remember correctly, it was the car right next to the door outside there. It was a 1963 black Eldorado convertible with black leather interior. And he said, is that what you're talking about? I said, "Yeah." Now look at that, Elvis. Look at that.
Swag. Wow.
"Yeah, you're right. It's a good-looking car." He said, "Here, it's yours."
Wow.
And I stepped away. I said, "No." He tried to hand me the key, and I said, No, Elvis, it's not." And I said, "No, it's not, man." I turned around and walked, and I went back over to the Rolls-Royce and got in the driver's seat. And he came over there and got in the front seat. "What's wrong with you?" I said, "Elvis, look, I don't want you to do that." I said, you know, you just gave me a motorcycle. It's like you're always giving and we're always taking. And I said, I don't want to do that. And he said, "Look, son," he said, "you guys are giving when you don't know you're giving." He said, "I put a lot on you. You handle it. And so this is just kind of a way for me to say thank you." You know, I said, "That's all you got to do is say thank you." You know?
Right.
He said, No. He said, "Now let me tell you something, Sonny. I know that you did not. I mean, that you sat on the curb just like I did and watched Cadillac convertibles go by when they did, and you just said, you know, one day I'm going to have one of those." And I said, "Well, yeah, every kid does that."
Sure.
He said, "I know."
I do too.
"I know it." I said, "Every kid does that." So he said, "So here's yours. Take these keys and let's go get mine." Because I did the same thing, Sonny. And that was it.
Yeah.
I got out, went over, put that top down, got in. I could not believe it. I couldn't. I said, "God, what a car." Now, I had a brand new car, a 59 convertible, Ford Fairlane 500, Galaxy 500, beautiful white Ford convertible with Mercury skirts and the Oldsmobile Fiesta tires that I bought while I was working before I went to work for Elvis. And when I went to work for Elvis, my brother was just getting out of the Army, and I let him take over the payments and turned it over to him and asked him for anything, you know, up front. He said, "Well, where are you going to drive?" I said, "Whatever Elvis got, man. I'm going to drive his cars."
What a lucky man you are, Sonny.
Packers, whatever.
I look at that black Stutz, and to slide in on that seat. Oh, baby.
It was fine, but I tell you, another car I liked that he had was that Mark II.
Yeah.
Not the Mark II, the Mark III. The Mark II was the 56 model, the 70 model.
Did it have balls?
Elvis, that's the way it is.
Right.
Him and Joe pulled into the studio.
Right.
That was it. That's the Mark III.
Did it have balls?
It was so smooth. and everything that you'd be doing 85, 90 miles an hour when we'd go to Palm Springs. You didn't even know it.
So it had a lot of power. Did the studs have a lot of power?
Huh?
Did the studs have a lot of power?
It did. Well, it had a Pontiac engine in it, but it was very heavy.
Uh-huh.
It was very heavy. That thing, that body was made over in Italy, and they put it on a Pontiac drive frame.
Mm-hmm.
The engine, the rear end, frame, everything else was Pontiac.
Yeah.
So yeah, it didn't have a lot of takeoff power.
But it looked fine.
Oh, it was a classic.
Yeah.
Classic.
Do you remember the Pantera?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I was in it that time when Elvis shot it.
He shot his car?
Yeah, we went out to go for a ride, and the battery, it hadn't been run for a while, so the battery was dead. It wouldn't turn over. And he said, son of a gun. You know, he said something else anyway. I said, Elvis, it's just the battery's down. You know, you hadn't been right. I'll go get Mike and Earl. We'll get a charger on it. He said, no, get out. Let's get out. So as he gets out, he's pulling his gun. I
Oh, my
thought,
God.
uh-oh. And I jumped and got out of the way, and sure enough, he fired. The window was down, and he just went ahead and fired right into the dashboard and said, now you are dead. And when it stole, I think it still had that bullet hole in it.
Did he do that a lot? What?
Somewhere. Huh?
Did he he liked messing with you?
Yeah, he did. That was one of the things. He had a funny and weird sense of humor.
Uh-huh.
I mean, you never knew what was going to come out of his mouth. He was very quick with it. That's why he liked Johnny Carson so much.
Right.
Because Johnny was so quick. But Elvis was very quick with it. And
did it ever get him into trouble?
the quick wit?
No, well, shooting something. I mean, did the cops ever come and say, hey, Elvis, you got to stop this? Or
No.
he never got in trouble? Well, Elvis, I guess, could do basically anything, couldn't he?
Right. When he burned down, him and Red took those two bulldozers and bulldozed that home on the back of Graceland property there. And then Elvis set it on fire.
Mm-hmm.
Neighbors saw all that, and they called the fire department. Fire department came over, and they came back there. Of course, this was back there near the back fence, so that's where they came to, because they could tell by the smoke that they thought a house was on fire or something.
Uh-huh.
And so they came and with their hook and ladder and looked up over the fence and said, and at the time, we were still in the county out there. The city had not annexed it yet. So they said something about, what are you doing? I'm burning the house down. That we bulldozed it, and then I just set it on fire there. And they said, did you get a permit for it? And I said, no, I didn't think about that. And they said, well, we need to watch it. He said, in case, he said, oh, well, see, y'all can stay there and watch it. He could, a cop one time gave him a ticket. A new cop gave Elvis a ticket for dressing improperly because him and Billy went out riding on their two three-wheelers there.
Uh-huh.
This was in 76 or 77, after we were gone. Red and I were gone, and this cop pulled him over and gave him a ticket. And boy, howdy, Elvis didn't do anything, but his dad called. And that cop, the ticket was, of course, taken up, and the cop was reassigned to another area in Memphis.
Wow.
The thing that, you don't do that.
Sonny, what was his effects with the cops? What was that with him? With badges and stuff?
He believed in law enforcement very much, but he didn't like bad cops. He didn't like bad cops. But the ones that were out there doing their job consistently, and the ones that we met that were friendly and everything, I was just enjoying them. And you got to remember, they didn't have T-shirt security when we first started touring out there. And even then, wasn't long they changed it from security, the word on it, to staff, because the word security represents something that you could be sued for. The promoter, the act that was there performing, everyone could be sued because security, if someone got hurt and security didn't take care of them, there's a connotation there that you better. So that's why they had changed it to event staff, what those guys used. But we used policemen in the buildings, hired them off duty, but in uniform. And if they didn't, like New York, you couldn't hire, the cops couldn't work off duty. So, of course, the Madison Square Garden had, I think it was Whacking Hut, that they had a deal with that took care of the event. They were the security for the Madison Square Garden, and I think they still are today. I believe it was Whacking Hut. We had a lot of cops there on the side of the stage watching the show. Some of them from horseback that were there, had their horses outside.
Wow.
Some of them from their patrol cars. Some of the beat cops There was probably about 30 of them
Wow.
inside there watching some of that show before they left.
I would have loved to see the Madison show. I would have loved to see the Madison Garden show.
Oh, boy, that one, there was one of them, I forget which one it was, the second or third one. There was just,
What was it?
I think it was the second show that he did. He just, you know, he didn't know how well he was going to go over in New York.
Really?
Said that, oh, yeah, he even said that to Jerry Weintraub of Management 3. And Jerry said, oh, believe me, Elvis, they're going to love you in New York. And, of course, and Jerry was from Philly, I think, originally. So he was right.
Yeah, and look how fast the shows,
Oh,
the shows sold out so quickly.
I know it. And he was, like I said, Elvis, the first show was probably a little bit nervous, but when they showed him the love, I think it was the second show where he really kicked butt.
Yeah.
We didn't go back because of the expense of the building. Madison Square Garden was very expensive.
Uh-huh.
And Elvis, even at that time, was not charging that much money. That what some of the other acts, like today, I don't know what the tickets are today for the
$150 to see Elton John.
Yeah, well, I would say that probably Elvis' ticket would be somewhere around $50 or $60. Colonel just didn't run over people like that. He knew when he didn't have any money.
Right.
And so he also didn't release things about how much Elvis was making to people. He said, because you don't want to create any situation out there where people say, well, my gosh, he's making so much money. He didn't advertise how well they were doing.
Right.
Promote that like other people saying, you know, top grossing, like, for instance, the Pontiac Silverdome show. They wanted to know how much he grossed on that.
Wow.
I don't have those figures in my head.
And another great show.
Exactly.
Did you get along? I always felt that Colonel Parker got a bad rap.
He did, Joe. And in my book, I explain that. I straightened a lot of that out. I said even some guys in the group, that like Jerry Schilling, wasn't working for Elvis at the time that this Barbara Streisand and John Peters presented. So he heard Elvis after him and Joe were in there because Jerry was doing editing or whatever, was working somewhere trying to do some editing, and he broke in on that Elvis on tour. He was in there when they were talking, and Elvis told Barbara, yeah, he'd like to do it. After they spent a couple, 3 hours there, I'm not sure how long, explaining to him changes they wanted to make because they had purchased the rights to remake it, and so Elvis was impressed and everything with it, and said, yeah, he wanted to do it. So, guess what Jerry heard?
What?
He came out, and Elvis told us, when we asked him, he said, you know what they want, guys, and he explained to us them getting the rights, and Red was the first one and said, you going to do it? And I was, yeah, I'm going to do it. And Red said, you swear? He said, yeah. He said, shake hands on it. So he shook hands, and I said, me too. And he shook hands with me and a couple of other guys. And then 2 or 3 days later, Joe, it started.
Mm-hmm.
I could hear comments, and when I heard him make the comment, like, for instance, about Barbara wanting to run everything and do everything her way, he got to thinking about how they might not get along very well. He said that hairdresser boyfriend of hers may want to direct it, and I'd have to slap the S-H-I-T out of him a couple of times maybe, and stuff like that. And I thought, uh-oh, he's not going to do it. Red and I looked at each other, and we both knew. Well, Jerry didn't know any of this. So Elvis told the Colonel to get him out of it.
Mm-hmm.
He told the Colonel he'd change his mind. And he said that's why Colonel asked for what he did.
Right.
The crowning thing being, Joe, that there's no way Barbara was going to give Elvis first billing.
Uh-huh.
You know?
Yeah.
And no way she was going to give him 50% of the profits. And I don't know at that time if she would have even given the $1 million salary, but I think the $1 million would have been okay.
Mm-hmm.
The 50% was asking a little bit too much, and then the top billing was something that you knew.
Mm-hmm.
And so she made the statement that she had said that he was going to do it after she got back, and a few days later when Colonel put those figures to her, she couldn't do it.
Right.
She said that Elvis didn't want to, I don't know what the figure was. Hold on just a minute, Joe.
All right.
I'll be right back, okay?
Yep.
I was amazed to hear you. The first time I said Joe and you didn't answer, I said, "Oh man, he's gone."
Hey, so you agree too that the Colonel really got a bad rap?
Oh, he really did. That and this is backed up what I just told you about the picture. It came to Colonel back in the '60s. For him, some people wanted him and Elvis and Judy Garland to do a children's album together, and offering $25,000 each. And they had got to Judy, and she had said yes, that she would. And then they came to Colonel, and Colonel said, "I don't know. Let me talk with Elvis, and we'll see." And so he asked Elvis if he wanted to do it, and Elvis said, "No, I don't, Colonel." He said, "Okay." And that was it. And he just put the price up. He had $100,000 instead of 25, and they said they didn't have that kind of money, and that Judy was going to do it for 25. And the Colonel said, "Well, I know, but Elvis's time is so booked, and it's very valuable time for him to take out the time to do this." So they left. They came back a week later and told him that they had the money.
Oh, Jesus.
But Elvis, you think Elvis was quick? Colonel was quicker by half a beat. He says, "Oh, you said you couldn't? I've already booked that time. He's not available now, I would say, for 3.5 or 4 years before he has any time off."
Wow.
To schedule this session, That was
he was good. He was really
very good. So
yeah.
he was very maligned, and people thought that he was working Elvis to death. He was working him quickly like that, those shorter tours, because he wouldn't have so much time off in between to do what he was doing to himself, Joe. Colonel was aware of it. It concerned him. We talked about it every tour once it started getting bad. In 74 and 75, 70, we talked about it every time. He would ask me when I would join him on tour to start setting up security and everything to go out on the pre-tour, and he'd say, "How's he doing?" I said, "About the same, or a little bit worse, Colonel." We got to keep him working. Not have so much time off, so he won't have time to do so much.
What was going on with him? I mean, he just fell apart. I mean,
I know it. I think that it all boils down to one thing, Joe. He had an addictive nature, and if you have that, then whatever it is that you're addicted to, you fight it all your life, and that's the only thing. That's the only thing I know that beat Elvis. Everything else, he beat it. I mean, any challenge that came to him is such a strong constitution, but an addiction is just. I mean, people that look at Robin Williams after 20 years.
Yeah.
So you fight it every day.
Yeah.
Mel Gibson, look at it. These are extremely, extremely talented people, just like Elvis was extremely talented. But there's something that gets you. And I go out and I used to go speak to high school students, and then middle school, and now I'm at the elementary level. I go out and speak to 4th, 5th, and 6th graders, and explain to them, ask them my whole thing after I say hi and who I am and everything. And I know that some of you probably don't know the name of Elvis Presley, but your moms and grandmoms, and because always there's at least several that say, "Oh, I do. My mom and grandma told me, and I listen to his music and watch his movies." But then I ask them the question, do any of you know what an addictive nature is? None of them know. I said, "That's a very big word, isn't it? Addictive." I said, "Well, what it is, it's something that is inside of some people that if they find something that they like, then they just have to have it." And I said, sometimes some people are addicted to things, rarely, but like ice cream or sodas, and they just drink them, a case of them a day, or they eat a gallon of ice cream a day, and this is bad.
I lost you. You there?